Hello everyone, and today we're going to be taking a look at Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2 in 2022. So of course Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, which is a long title, it is a sequel to Dark Forces, hence the name Dark Forces 2, was released in 1997, so quite a long time ago, released for Microsoft Windows on PC only. Never been a console port. It is a first-person shooter, which puts you once again in the role of Kyle Katarn. Once again, he's a mercenary for hire, who's also a Jedi. So we are looking for the Valley of the Jedi. And one of the unique things about Dark Forces 2, we'll just call it Dark Forces 2 for now, it's too much to say the entire title. So Dark Forces 2, it did feature the Sith engine, which was an interesting 3D game engine, brand new engine for this game, which was kind of interesting. I mean, it could do 3D quite well. So for its time, it looked good anyway, visually. Also, it did feature live action cutscenes as well, which are quite interesting to view today. They're not the best of quality because, of course, they were recorded at quite a low bit rate, quite a low resolution back then, and scaling can only go so far. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's go and take a look at Dark Forces 2 in 2022. Right, so you can buy Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2. You can do it the old-fashioned way and buy it on compact disc, whatever they were. So you can buy it on CD, the physical version. They're fairly cheap these days. I mean, I got one that had that and the expansion pack on eBay. Shouldn't cost you more, maybe $5 to $10 in the US, £5 to £10 in the UK, maybe just under £5 in the UK. Not that expensive. You can, of course, get it on digital storefronts. It's available on GOG and Steam. Some people say which is better. To be honest with you, we're not really going to run those versions anyway. We're just buying them to get the base files. So it doesn't really matter. Just buy whatever one's cheapest, to be honest with you. But it is fairly easy to find a game from 1997. It's not that high value again because it is on the digital storefronts. So I suppose there is that. So not much to this section anyway. Right, now let's get into the how to play it section. Now this one is quite a difficult game to run. Again, it was released in 1997 using the Sith engine. So the Sith engine just lacks any real modern hardware features, and it was designed to run on GPUs at the time, which used technology like Glide, for example, which just isn't around anymore. That was the 3DFX cards that used Glide and technologies like that. It does run OpenGL, but a very old version of OpenGL as well. So it is very, very difficult to get it running with 3D hardware acceleration just out of the box. That's why I say it doesn't really matter. Some people say the GOG version is better. Some people say the Steam version is better, but that doesn't matter because the best way to run it today with 3D hardware acceleration is to download the mod called Jedi Knight Remastered. You should download that. I'll put a link to that in the description. It is fairly easy to install. There, you just install it, and there is a lot of guides. It does come with a good guide of how to change the resolution and change the frame rate. So you can run it at modern resolutions with 3D hardware acceleration. 1080p, 1440p, 4K even. In terms of it running, it's quite system resource heavy. I mean, I have an RTX 3080 Ti and a Core i7 12700KF, and it pushes two of the cores at least quite hard. It's pushing up at 4.9 gigahertz, so maximum sort of turbo boost for that. Could go a bit higher, but it's running at 1440p and 144 FPS. It does run pretty well. It does dip occasionally when you get explosions on the screen, but bear in mind it is an older game, so the best way to run it is to get Jedi Knight Remastered, because it is very, very difficult to run, even on older systems. Like I had a Windows XP machine, and I tried the disc version and I couldn't get 3D hardware acceleration to run. You can get it to run, but it is very, very difficult to do so. I also made a video on this. I made a video, I'll link my other video showing you how to get Jedi Knight Remastered installed and running. And I'll put a link to the mod DB page for Jedi Knight Remastered as well. But that's the best way to do it, is to get the mod and install it. Unless you like software rendering, it'll run fine, software rendering, if you just want to click play and run it. But if you want 3D hardware acceleration, then you're best doing that. All the footage in this video, I should point out, is 3D hardware accelerated footage. It's also, the mod also tidies up the cutscenes as well. It also adds things like you can have dismemberment on the stormtroopers. You can cut their arms off with a lightsaber, which is interesting there as well. So I think that is overall the best way to get it to run. So I will put a link for you, and I'll put a link to my other video of how to install it. There was another technique of using the Voodoo wrapper. Doesn't work in Windows 10. It worked in Windows 7. I did have a video on that as well a few years ago. I'll put a link in the description to the videos showing you how to get that running. But again, runs pretty well. It is quite resource intensive though, but it runs fine. Just set expectations accordingly. You can set the FOV, and you can set other preferences. It does come with quite a good guide, Jedi Knight Remastered, as to how to do it. You have to do it in the text file. Go in and set the resolution manually before you launch the game. So it doesn't really matter which version you get, because Jedi Knight Remastered, it does tidy up some of the audio files as well, and it does remaster to an extent the cutscenes. I mean, there's only so much you can really do for the live action cutscenes. We've seen that with a few games from the 90s that did that. Command and Conquer Remastered was another one where they try to tidy up the cutscenes, but again, low bitrate and low resolution video can only be tarted up so much. But it runs fine. It doesn't run like a little small tiny window at least. At least it runs and is stretched across full screen, as you'll see here in the video. So anyway, in terms of getting to play it, bit of a pain, but it is doable. Right, so I mean, it plays like a shooter from 1997. So if you like old school classic shooters, then you're gonna like Dark Forces 2. I do like it personally. Like I like old school shooters. I'm a fan of, Doom, Quake, etc. And I do like the way it works. It doesn't hold your hand, for one of the things. It is an old school shooter. So you kind of have to figure out where to go. There's never going to be an objective marker saying go here and things like that. So that's not going to be there. You have to figure things out yourself. There are a few puzzles in the game as well that you have to solve, as well as platforming. It loves its platforming, this game. A bit weird getting used to right click to jump and spacebar as action. But that was fairly typical for shooters back then. So it's a bit weird because you run up to things and hit the spacebar and fall to your death. Once you get used to that, you have to right click to jump. You could rebind it if you wanted. And in the menu, if you wanted to rebind the keys, that's something you can do. But yeah, I do like the old school shooter approach of not holding your hand, having to figure things out for yourself. You do get a Doom style map, which you can get by pressing the tab key. You also get your force powers as well, which are interesting to use as well. Press F to do force jump is a bit weird, really, but once you get used to that, it's pretty good. The endings, you can have two endings in the game. There is a dark side and a light side ending. So you'll notice about the levels, there's a bunch of NPCs that you can kill as well. If you kill a lot of those NPCs, you will get dark side points. You also get an upgrade system, which you can put in. You get force points, I'm going to call them. You can put them into your force abilities. So you can learn dark side abilities and light side abilities as well. If you learn a lot of dark side abilities, again, you will get the dark side ending. But the level design is interesting as well. It feels more open than it is. But there's usually only one way to do a level there. But there are some quite nice open areas as well, where you fight enemies as well. Enemies are pretty tough in the game as well. They do lock onto you, and the game floods you with enemies later on in the game. It'll throw everything. You fight like stormtroopers mostly, but you'll fight Dark Jedi as well. There's boss fights which aren't great, to be honest with you. I've never been a big fan of the boss fights. The lightsaber combat isn't the best. The lightsaber is pretty useful. You can use it to light dark areas, which is quite nice actually. You do get sort of they're not really dynamic lights per se, but you can like light up an area by firing at your laser or your E11 rifle or whatever. And you can also use the lightsaber as a torch as well, which is pretty cool. Jedi Fallen Order did that really well, but it is interesting to see that in a game from 1997. The lighting was quite impressive. Visually, it's nice. It looks okay. I mean, I'm quite happy with the visuals. The cutscenes probably haven't aged very well. The acting isn't great in the cutscenes, but yeah, the level design is pretty interesting as well. There's a lot of times where you will fall to your death, and there's a lot of just empty space in the level design, but that is just the limitations of the engine. Again, but I like the art style. I kind of like the art direction. It is very Star Warsy. The sound effects are really nice as well. The blaster rifle, the lightsaber, the stormtroopers are pretty cool as well. The way they react to being shot. You can play it on easy mode, which is realistic difficulty for stormtroopers because they can't shoot, they can't hit you. If you want to play that there, I'm playing on medium. I think we're playing on. So there's no. I said there was no hand holding. There's no checkpoints in the level as well. You've got to manually save. So you've got to remember that. When you get to a difficult platform, when you've passed a difficult platform section, always save. Because there are some really difficult platforming parts in the game, and it is an old school game, so it's not going to hold your hand. One mistake and you're right back to your previous save or the beginning of the level, whichever one is soonest. Whichever one occurs. I think you do get an autosave at the start of the level, but you don't get it in the middle of the level. Also, the fact you only get, I think you only get a temporary autosave as well. So you always remember to save. That's my tip. It's not going to tell you where to go. You're going to have to figure it out for yourself. Although there's plenty of guides online these days for it. You can easily find a guide somewhere or a walkthrough to get through it. But I like trying to figure it out on my own. I quite liked it. It's a different type of challenge as well. There are sort of jumping puzzles as well. There's puzzles where you have to press things and use your force abilities as well. They make good use of your force abilities. You get a set of core force abilities like force speed, force jump, etc. And then you've got the dark and light ones. They're your typical force heal is a light side power, force leech is a dark side power. The dark side power is for your typical lightning, etc. Force choke, things like that. You know, if you've seen Star Wars or played any Star Wars game in the last 20 odd years, you'll know how it plays. But I really like it. I really do like it. The shooting is fairly solid. It is fairly solid. Enemies are tough because they just kind of lock onto you and shoot you. Gamorreans are the toughest enemies. The piggies, they're the tough ones. They can kill you with like a few hits and just ignore your shield because they've got melee weapons. And they take a lot of shots from your laser rifle or your E11 blaster rifle. Should be pointed out. That's the one I use the most, really. I'd like it. It's cool. You get some cool guns in the game as well. There are some cool guns. You get like a machine gun later on, and you get like the Wookiee bowcaster, which is interesting. If you hold the button down, hold the fire button down, you get a spread shot out of that, which is quite interesting. You get like a shotgun type laser rifle as well, which is pretty terrible at long range, but good at close range as well. But yeah, I do love this game. I think it is a classic. Don't go in expecting sort of modern type game if you're used to modern games that tell you where to go and tell you what to do and tell you everything you've got, give you all the information that you need. This game won't do that. You kind of have to figure it out on your own, which I'm used to, really. And I quite like it. It's a different approach, really. The platforming is ridiculous sometimes. But other than that, it holds up pretty well. The shooting feels nice. Everything feels nice and responsive. And the controls are fine. Really, they're fine. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but other than that, they are perfectly fine. Okay. So, in conclusion, yeah, Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2 is worth your time if you're a fan of Star Wars games. If you like old school shooters and Star Wars games, it is worth checking out. The FMV cutscenes are quite hilarious and don't quite hold up well these days, but other than that, it's a fairly solid first-person shooter. The lightsaber combat isn't the best, though. It did improve later on in the further Jedi Knight games. But what we'll do next time is we will take a look at its sequel. We'll take a look at the confusingly named Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. I know the Jedi Knight series is difficult to follow. If you're not aware of it, then it's quite difficult because you've got Dark Forces, then it's Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight, and then it's Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast, and then it's Jedi Knight Jedi Academy was the final Jedi Knight game. in the series. So a bit confusing to look at the order of those games. But yeah, the sequel is called Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. And once again, we are playing as Kyle Katarn. So we'll check out that one as well. That's a bit more modern, we'll say. But anyway, that is all for this video. So thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon. And goodbye.